Well, brothers, it is my joy to testify to you this morning about God's goodness in my heart and in my life over these past several years during my seminary studies. First, I'd like to thank the faculty of the Master's Seminary for the work that you do. You have sowed bountifully not only into my life, but into the lives of so many other men, and it is my hope and my prayer that you will personally experience the fruits of that harvest, seeing the fruit that comes from your ministry through our lives over the coming years. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Grace Community Church elders that I've had the privilege to serve alongside and serve under. Pastor Carl and Pastor Bill Shannon have just been a tremendous encouragement to me. Dave Muxlow has demonstrated to me what it means to have joy as a Christian. And for that, I'm exceedingly grateful. Also, I'd like to say thank you to my children, Zoe, Simon, Gianna, Calvin, Martin, and Sophia. For those of you that are counting, yes, that is 6 children. They have so graciously shared me with my books over these past years and my studies, and they're a joy. Also, my wife, Desha. Proverbs 31 says, an excellent wife is hard to find. And the Lord has given me such an excellent wife. Honey, you are of inestimable worth to me. And I've seen you grow over these past years as you've girded yourself with strength and shouldered burdens beyond what either one of us could have anticipated. And you've been my joy. Your love and support have sustained me over these past years. Genesis chapter 1:21 says that God created the sea monsters and placed them in the sea. This may seem an odd verse to many of you, but this has sustained me through my seminary career. I've been a carpenter my entire life. Prior to seminary, I've been banging nails and cutting boards for the past 25 years. That's what I've done. And I'm pretty good at planning. Really, the difference between a bad carpenter and a good carpenter often comes down to planning, and profit margins are usually determined in the planning phase of any project. So if you want to make any money, you have to be a good planner. And prior to coming to seminary, I thought, well, I'm a pretty good planner, and I've got a plan for how I'm going to go to seminary. I'm going to move there. I'm going to crank this out in 3 years. Then I'm going to go to a church someplace that really needs a pastor in a state not named California, and certainly not in a place called Los Angeles. It's now my 10th semester here at TMUS, so for those of you that are counting, that's not 3 years. That's not 3 years. It's taken me longer than anticipated, and I guess speaks to something of how my plans have gone. I realized very early on in my seminary career that my plans were in trouble. It was about the second day of class when I ran into the buzzsaw that I like to call Joe Zakovich and failed the Hebrew alphabet quiz that I knew I was in for a long road in front of me. That was the first in a long string of disappointing performances on Hebrew exams over the next 1.5 semesters. Regrettably, to be perfectly honest with you, my other coursework wasn't going that well. To say that I was questioning my decision and my plan to come to seminary would have been an understatement. But after 6 months of tedious toil in Hebrew class, we finally got to the Bible. We finally made it to Genesis chapter 1. And as Dr. Z was explaining the subtle significance of the Hebrew word tanim that is translated sea monsters in Genesis chapter 1, verse 21, as he was explaining the exegetical punch of what that word meant in the ancient Near Eastern culture, that Moses wrote that down in the Pentateuch to communicate to the people of Israel that God was sovereign over all things, even the other types of beings that other ancient Near Eastern gods would have had to fight against, that God merely made this thing and put it in the ocean, as it were. I was kind of kicked in the teeth by that message and punched in the gut, because I realized that my propensity for planning had been a subtle cover for pride my entire life. A very righteous-looking cover for pride my entire life. And as Joe was going through that passage, I broke, man. I broke. And I went down to the library, to my study corral, and I wept over my sin like I had not wept over sin for years. because I realized that I was a prideful man, and I'd been trying to live my life under my own power, and I'd come here to TMS under my own power, and I was failing miserably. Well, God made the sea monsters, and he's the one who sets the agenda. And speaking of agendas, it's not really my future plan at all, but the agenda that's in front of me is that it is my hope to graduate in May. I don't know if anyone's ever given a senior testimony twice, but I don't want to be the first. And I've been asked to minister here at Grace Community Church on staff in the children's ministry, and that is an ever-growing joy in my own heart as I get to labor here in the last place I ever thought I wanted to minister. So if I could just exhort you with just a few words, be careful with your plans, men. Remember who made you.